Trauma Therapist Podcast Plus listeners can listen to episodes early and ad-free right now. Become a Plus listener by going to Apple Podcasts, searching for the Trauma Therapist Podcast, and signing up today. Welcome to the Trauma Therapist Podcast, a show about the incredible people dedicated to helping those who've experienced trauma. My name is Guy McPherson, and my mission is to raise the awareness of trauma and to inspire each of us to help those around us. Are you ready?
Never.
All right. Okay. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Dr. Bayo Akomolafe. Bayo, welcome.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome. So Bayo, rooted with the Yoruba people in a more than human world, is a widely celebrated international speaker, post-humanist thinker, poet, teacher, public intellectual, essayist, and author of 2 books, including These Wilds Beyond Our Fences, Letters to My Daughter on Humanity's Search for a Home. He's a founder of the Emergence Network, a planet-wide initiative that seeks to convene communities in new ways in response to the critical civilizational challenges we face as a species. He's also the host of the post-activist course festival event titled We Will Dance with Mountains, and currently lectures at Pacifica Graduate Institute in California. Bayo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, brother. So good to be here.
Awesome. So before we get going, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
I'm in Massachusetts now, in Great Barrington, just for a couple of months with my family. I'm, a number of things with Clark University, the Council of Uncertain Human Futures, and Schumacher Center for New Economics, where I'm appointed as the inaugural W.E.B. Du Bois Scholar in Residence. So, a couple of things have brought me here, and I'm constantly flying in and out of the United States from India, where I live with my family ordinarily. My wife is Indian. My family is mixed and confused. and that's just fine. But I come from Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. My family is home.
In preparation for this, looking at the work you do, your website, one gets an impression of a certain focus, a certain message, a certain passion that
Right.
comes forth. So I say that as an introduction to my next question, which is, what do you say to people when they ask you, what do you do?
I think people have learned not to ask me that any longer because it's I often think of myself as first and foremost a partner to EJ, my life partner, my wife. She grounds me and makes everything possible. And I introduce that I'm a father or a becoming father. I haven't quite achieved fatherhood, right? It's not a trophy to be won. I'm still learning. So I like to situate myself on the spectrum of becoming. So I call myself a becoming father. But in other contexts, I might suggest that I like to think. I'm a thinker, a philosopher, a recovering academic. I think the vocation of public intellectualism is strong. The force is strong with me on that one, even though the traditional ideas of public intellectualism have to do with speaking truth to power and speaking to the public. I'm speaking to a public that hasn't shown up yet, which complicates issues, I guess. But I speak about sensitizing bodies to different kinds of realities that I think are obscured by our fascination with the one true one, which is what white modernity presupposes we have.
Mm-hmm. So going a little deeper, say more about that last thing you just said there. Be more specific.
I've heard that so many times, especially like just being more specific.
Because I want to get at the core of what the hell what your message is.
I don't know.
What do you?
I really don't. The thing is, I don't know what I do. I know. I just know that I'm being done by things.
Okay.
Often, I can give, I give snapshots of what is this thing that is doing itself, but I don't know how to professionalize myself and say, here's my card. I don't know how to. Um, but yes, that other thing I said about gesturing to other worlds, maybe a good way to for the space of our conversation would be to refer to Octavia Butler. Octavia Butler has this beautiful sci-fi writer, one of the greatest, who she has this saying, yes, there's nothing new under the sun, but there are new suns. And that idea that the world, that what's normal, what's neurotypical, what's obvious is already a distraction, is already an obscuration of other potential kinds of worlds, is among the things that are core to my explorations, to my theorizations, which are radically incomplete and are still meandering and seeking. But I think it's opening up space for capacity and thought for people today, which I'm very grateful for.
When and how did this start for you? This pursuit, this passion, this, lack of a better word, this calling?
So, there was a crisis on my planet, and my father and mother, Jor-El, and they put me on a spaceship and sent me to planet Earth. I'm wondering if you're a nerd, like I am. I'm sure you're wondering, what's this guy saying? No, I'm not from Krypton. But it seems the conditions of my first tastes of philosophical desire, are, they're coterminous with the passing of my father. My father passed away, and he left a gaping hole in my heart and in my still emerging world philosophy. I grew up in a very Christocentric world in the south of Nigeria, and that was my world. It's just that I never really thought about it. It was just a background to things, even though I was quite people situate me on the autistic spectrum. I was quite a self-involved, very insular child because I was constantly on my own, not by choice, not by circumstance. So my father's passing just kicked something into gear. It started with my explorations of the limitations of my faith. I didn't start out trying to find the limitations. I just kind of happened upon it.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 15 when my father passed away. 14, 15 when he passed away. And it rocked my world. He was my best friend, and he his passing kind of offered some rude ontological shock. It was like an electrical shock, and it jolted me into the world of real things where people pass away. I'd heard of death, but it never really occurred to me that it could occur to me or to someone very close to me. So that took me on a journey that, in summary, might look like a leap from a Christocentric fundamentalism to an exploration of a multi-faith assemblage, which took me into an exploration of postmodernism and then ushered me into some social constructivist imaginations. And where I find myself today is not beyond all of that. It's not like I've traveled down a sophisticated line and I'm now a feminist, new materialist, post-humanist, animist, post-structuralist thinker. No, I don't think succession is the key here. I think I now see that I haven't quite abandoned those selves, that I'm in a world that is entangled, and I'm still in relations, in conversations with those aspects that I thought I'd left behind. And that is shocking, scandalous, but also poetically liberating all at once.
What, what I hear you describing in a sense is a uh, flight, a journey to discover, but also this continued groundedness with who and what you are and where you came from.
You could put it that way. I don't know if I'm very confident about grounds or, I think grounds are contrived, even ontological grounds. It seems that the thing for me is to, in fact, I find more security in groundlessness than in grounds. I was seeking grounds until I found that maybe the best form of groundedness is a groundlessness, right? That doesn't resolve itself in who I am really, authentically, or what I am, but in this quest to constantly, this pilgrimage that never ends, right? So it's a continuous seeking. It's an inquiry that never quite completes itself. And that feels relaxing to me in a way that I can't quite translate into words, or I could try if we have 2 hours.
What is what is important to you when you get up in the morning? You talked about your relationships, daughter.
Yes.
Like when you get up, what's moving you? What's pulling you?
Hmm. Well, there are a couple of things, a federation of things, actually. One is my belonging to my family, that I'm in good relations with my wife, with my daughter, and with my son. That feels primary. I'm unable to function. The Yoruba people have a proverb that what we have to eat is more important than what we have to do. So that that they rank eating and and jiving and being well on an ontologically higher scale than any other thing that we can do. My family is that thing for me, is that eating. If I'm not eating well, if I'm not being with them well, then nothing else matters. But then when you speak about waking up, I'm constantly haunted by this idea, this philosophical notion that which I've expressed in my concepts like post-activism, parapolitics. The key concept here is that it seems in this time of crisis, brother, climate chaos, racialized politics, pandemics, war in Gaza, all of that, it seems that the more we try to attempt to resolve these issues, the more they come back to us in other forms. So I say that the way we respond to the crisis is becoming the crisis. What happens when we're stuck in an infinite loop and keep on going around in circles and repeating the same things? So I'm very fascinated and want to keep on exploring difference, how different differences occur. Not because we say it happens, not because we hold up a trophy and announce victory, but because I think if we're stuck in a pattern, then the thing we want to look for is bricks. And that's what I'm fascinated by. Bricks, cracks, openings, not solutions, but openings.
Differences in discovering patterns. I mean, specifically with responses to the way we've been dealing
With all these issues. Yeah.
with all these issues. Can you pick one out and be specific about how maybe an attempt to respond is in itself the part of the crisis or the crisis?
Do you throw your trash out in carefully delineated boxes, colorful boxes, plastic here, glass here, others miscellaneous
Yeah,
things?
I do. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Every time I travel to the United States, come to the United States, sometimes we've been here for up to 6 months now, and we've become part of that practice. But we've never quite lost the chuckle, the sarcasm, the glint in our eyes, because we know, and this is verifiable data, that more than 90% of discardable waste actually doesn't go to a green emerald city. It doesn't go to, across the yellow brick road. It goes to Africa. It goes to the global south, right? Hundreds of thousands of tons of plastic, is deposited in somewhere that is conveniently far away. This is a notion of sustainability that is obscured or that obscures or wastes colonialism, right? That is important to have a discussion about. But beyond discussing this, brother, another question begs to be seen. What do we do then? If the only way to address deleterious environmental conditions is actually propagating the problem. I remember John Stewart actually had a debate about this some time ago, I think last year. Like, the way we know how to respond and to resolve this is actually part of the crisis. What then do we do? What does responsibility mean when the medicine is part of the harm?
We're blindly moving forward and repeating our actions without understanding what the issues are, how to move out, how to separate ourselves to see these differences that you're talking about.
There you go.
So what do we do? What can I do? What can the listeners do? What steps can we take to wake up, basically?
Well, stay with this metaphor. It's more than a metaphor. It's a figure. It's a very potent one, I think. And it tries to underscore the idea that we are not ourselves by ourselves. What do? We often think, starting from the individual who has to act upon the world. What is lost in that framework is that we are not acting upon the world so much as the world is acting upon us. And it's not that we are above the world in its becomings. We are the world in its exploration of itself. So stuckness is a real possibility. But here's a figure. Ants often go into a thing that entomologists call a death spiral. I don't know if you've heard about it, but a death spiral is, in some sense, a pheromonic accident. They secrete these semiochemicals, which supposedly helps them guide themselves home. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're blind. They don't know how to move through the world except by these GPS systems, these chemical GPS systems. Sometimes it glitches, this system, and at least from our perspective, and they fall into a loop. And they walk around in a circle, and they're unable to break in from that circle. Some of these circles are as large as sports, arenas, as a football stadium. They just keep on walking around, and eventually they die. They die out of exhaustion. That reminds me of us, right? It reminds me of how we keep doing things over and over again. We've been talking about climate change, for instance, in the 70s. We assure ourselves that progress is being made, but it seems in larger doses, we are doing the same thing, moving the pieces around, convincing ourselves that innovation is happening or solutions are happening, but it seems we're still within the logic of that capture, of that trance. And even though there's a lot of energy being expended, there's a lot of advertisement, there's a lot of publication, but it seems we're still within the logic. So what do we do? I think that question lends itself to the kinds of ontological frameworks that I'm trying to bracket. I'm trying to suggest that maybe that question gets in the way of other kinds of considerations, that the world is doing something, that we have never been holders of agency, that the world has agency in a sense, and that maybe the thing to do here, as much as we're able, is to investigate the openings that might shift our experience of ourselves, and that this feels pertinent. Not just creating solutions like driving an electric car or turning off the light, but actually terraforming the ways that we understand ourselves in relation with the planet. And that is more potent than any old solution.
And what would that look like then?
At the risk of offering another metaphor, and the reason why I offer these there's a lot about this that is speculative, but I offer this speculation in the spirit of pragmatism. It's speculative pragmatism. These questions you ask are prestigious, yes. What would that look like? We don't always know. And that idea that we can anticipate the effulgent, maybe that's not the right word, the magisterial processual dignity of an emergent, always emergent universe, I think feeds into this crisis of being a modern citizen. Because we hope that it lands into our hands. We hope that we can put a handle on it. But I'm not speaking about doors and doorways here. I'm speaking about cracks. Doors are easy to handle, but doors are already anticipated. We're speaking about when the building itself starts to sprout cracks. And I think about those cracks as opportunities for investigating failure, of investigating imagination, of playing with the spaces where we don't quite measure up. It might look like even staying with grief, brother, right? I'm a psychologist, but I understand that my work and my training has been to keep people being productive, right? To keep you useful. What I'm speaking about is a pragmatics of the useless, to borrow a term from Erin Manning. It's not useful, but its usefulness lies in its uselessness because it's not available for how we often get caught up in patterns. So grief is not useful. It is incredibly pathological in the eyes of many dominant institutionalized thought patterns. But I think having space for grief, for instance, might mark out a groove in the experiences we're sharing and open out new worlds for us.
Grief on global level, individual level.
Grief is never individual. It has never been. It's not, this is what psychologists call an external cognition, an external mind, right? What we experience as personal grief is already an ecological condition, is already happening at large, and that's the point here, that those ways we sectorize the world from the global to the nation state level, to the individual, to the molecular, is useful. I understand that hierarchy and what work it's trying to do. But I think those hierarchies break down under the weight of something that transversalizes them, that spills beyond them. And we're in a time of spillage. Mm-hmm. So that is what I feel this planetary research might look like. This planetary research is personal and it's not personal. It's both at the same time.
So even viewing, for example, grief individually is in and of itself part of the issue, part of the challenge.
There you go. And it has never been. Grief is territorial. It's not personal.
So with our time remaining here.
Yes.
I want to shift gears a little here. And as you emerge and claim the role of father, what do you feel it's important to teach your kids?
Well, I did share recently that I had a conversation with my daughter, and she had very strong opinions about some aspect of Indian society. I can share here that what she was talking about was, in her view, the colonial edifice of the caste system. She's only 11, but she has very, very strong opinions and well-considered opinions about, and she cares deeply about the marginalized and the oppressed. And so she felt this is wrong. I felt led in that moment to hold the beauty of what she was exploring, definitely not archiving it or banishing it or dismissing it, but to hold it in context of larger patterns that are emerging, and to offer her this idea not to get trapped in being correct, right? Because it's a trap. That I have the correct point of view. I wanted to offer her a vision of a world that is spilling and moving, a world that is not atomic or Newtonian, a world that is more processual, emergent, and diffracted. And so I'm learning to learn with my children about this world, this sensuous world that is not resolvable to atomic points. It's more a metaphysics of lines and seeking lines than it is a steady container of already wrong or correct opinions. And so this is complicated work, but I feel that it's needed, that we're losing nuance, for instance, in politics. We don't even know how to have a conversation any longer. It's that I have the right opinion and you're obviously wrong because I have that opinion. I don't want my children to participate in that kind of culture. So yes, that is something powerful for me. Maybe the last thing I'll say on that is my son is autistic. He is teaching me about losing my way. When people say, in order to find your way, you must lose it. And there's something about the ways that I'm relating with my son, the ways me and my wife are relating with our son, that is inviting us to lose our way and to find other kinds of worlds embedded in the ordinary that we think we already know.
Damn. Bayo, man, half hour is not enough, obviously.
Yep.
How do people learn more about what you're doing? What's the best way?
If you don't find me in a psychedelic session, you probably would find me. No, I haven't done psychedelics. I mean, if you don't find me in a dream or some, more than human highway, then you can check my website. Just type my name in Google and you can find stuff that I'm doing, I guess.
Okay. All right. And we'll have that linked up. That's akomolafe.net.
Yes.
We'll have it linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Bayo, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. I'm going to think twice now when I'm separating out my trash and recycling.
Even then, you will toss your trash. We are
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you.